get an opportunity to check in? If not, I can bring it back up toward the end so that you can make sure that you get the credit for being here. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. You can do better than that. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Awesome, awesome. I want you to picture this. It was a January morning, time 03:30, Bagram Air Force Base, Afghanistan. Pitch black as your eyes peered out toward the distant mountain ranges. The only light available illuminating from portable light sparks. A bone-chilling 36 degrees, brisk, cold, with a wind that will cut right through you. At the end of a 15-hour shift, a young sergeant stood there, alone in the munitions storage area, next to 3 trailers of bombs that had just been completed, ready for delivery to the flight line for the day's missions. He methodically checked fuses, arming wire, fins, and every other component to create a successful build. And then he checked them again, and again, and again. From across the pad, from the comfort of his warm truck, another sergeant yelled out, "They're good to go, man. It's cold out here. Let's go back to the shop." Without missing a beat, that young sergeant looked up and said, "If we miss something, it might be the pilot's last flight, and I can't take that chance." Hearing this story filled me with pride. He did not say it because of ego. He said it because he understood that in that moment, other people's lives depended on his ability to do what was right when no one was looking. That is the kind of discipline that turns good leaders into great leaders. That's what I want to talk about today. How to build that kind of mindset in everything you do. Because leadership doesn't start when people follow you. It starts when your actions are worth following. Before I go any further, I should probably mention that my wife, Professor Danica Spriggs, teaches here at the East Carolina University College of Business. And when I told her that I would be speaking here today and some of her students may be in attendance, I asked her, in her opinion, what she thought would be valuable. What should I talk about? And for those of you out there who may know Professor Spriggs, you'll know this is true when I tell you her response was sarcastic and direct. And she said to me, "Don't try to be too smart. Don't try to be funny, witty, or charming. Don't get too analytical. You know, just be yourself." That was a shock. So if this goes downhill, just remember I'm following Professor Spriggs' directions. All right? All right. Before we dive in, let me take a second to thank the East Carolina University College of Business professors, faculty, staff, and you, the students, for allowing me to share this day with you. My name is Fulton Spriggs, and my path to this stage in front of you today started far from here. I was born and raised in the inner city of Baltimore, Maryland, the oldest of 4 boys raised by a single mother. Baltimore City presented more than its fair share of challenges for me growing up. The streets were filled with violence, drugs, poverty. I saw good people disappear into bad choices every day. At one point, those challenges really hit home for me when my mother, my 2 younger brothers, and I had to live in a homeless shelter for a period of time. Even as a kid, I knew that what I saw around me was not how I wanted my story to end. After high school, I joined the United States Air Force, not out of pride, but out of necessity. I needed a way out. I needed an opportunity to build something different. While my second year in the Air Force, my son Cameron was born. 2 years later, I became a single father. I raised him while serving full-time, and today he is in his 13th year in the United States Air Force as well. And that has been one of my proudest accomplishments and proudest moments, watching him grow and mature into the young man that he is today. I spent 26 years in the U.S. Air Force as a munitions systems specialist. The person who builds bombs, missiles, grenades, rockets, and anything else that goes boom in order to arm our nation's fighter aircraft. I've served all over the globe in multiple stops, to name a few, in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, and 13 deployments to the Middle East. And I spent 7 of those 26 years as a military drill instructor at Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio, Texas. I culminated my career when I retired as one of the top 3% of all senior enlisted leaders. When I transitioned from the military, I wanted to apply all of the leadership lessons I had learned in the civilian world. So I then became a franchise owner of 4 Fantastic Sam's franchise hair salons, right here in the Eastern North Carolina region, Fayetteville and Hope Mills. And yes, going from building bombs to leading teams that style hair was quite a shift. Things have changed. It didn't take long to realize that leadership principles, however, are universal. Whether you're in combat boots or cutting hair, people follow consistency, integrity, and leaders that they can trust. After getting my salons up and running successfully, having managers and an infrastructure in place that I felt comfortable stepping away, I joined Amazon as an operations manager, leading sortation center operations that process hundreds of thousands of packages a day. I now serve as a senior process specialist responsible for standard work, policy creation, and compliance all across the United States and Canada sort centers. Through it all, those experiences began shaping how I would think, act, and lead for the remainder of my life. They built a mindset that refuses to accept limits and seeks to create opportunities not just for myself, but for others as well. That mindset is captured perfectly in the traits described here by the College of Business at ECU. What we know as the Leadership 7: empathy, integrity, communication, courage, competence, growth, and vision. These 7 principles aren't just academic terms or leadership buzzwords. They're the same qualities that separate those who simply manage tasks from those who move people, build trust, and create lasting impact. In a world where technology, change, and uncertainty move faster than your comfort zone, these are the traits that will carry you further than any title ever would. Today, I want to share what each of these looks like when you're the one that people are counting on. They're not just professional skills, they are daily disciplines that separate managers from leaders and turn leaders into legends. And before I go any further, I'm going to ask a question for the audience. No right or wrong answer, so feel free to just share in 1 or 2 words, in your opinion, based off of what you know and what you've learned, what is the difference between leadership and management? Anyone? A leader is selfless. It puts their people first. Can you pronounce your name for me? Deshayla said leaders are selfless and they put people first. Anyone else?
Managers put out fires. Leaders take care of the reason for the fire, positive fire.
All right, that's a very good analogy. Very good. Is it Jeremy?
Yes, sir.
I left my glasses in the chair. But Jeremy said that managers put out fires and leaders find out what caused the fire, correct? All right. Anyone else? Vanessa?
I think the leader inspires people.
And leader inspires people. Awesome. Faith?
The leader will teach and guide you to learn the lesson as the leader might just tell you. The leader will show you.
All right. A leader will show you, whereas a manager may just tell you, right? So that leader is investing by showing, right, into that person. Anyone else?
Manager's going to be saying, do this task, do this, do that. A leader will be showing you how to do it and focus on your growth as well.
That last part, focused on what?
Growth.
Focused on growth. Excellent, excellent. All of these are great points. All of these are great points. The key takeaway that I got from all of the responses, which was spot on, was that leadership is about people, and management is about process, right? The book definition can be defined through multiple different books and different readings, but fundamentally, the difference between leadership and management, on what we've touched on, is that leadership is about people, while management is about process, policy, and performance. The best leaders understand that a balance of both is required to achieve success. Focus only on numbers or metrics or what goals you need to achieve. You may very well meet, achieve, and exceed some of them, but you may risk losing your team along the way. If you focus only on people and your good intentions, then you risk progress and accountability within an organization. True leaders live in the balance, the space where you drive results and still bring people with you. Midway through my Air Force career, I had a young airman who suddenly started to trend negatively in his performance. He began missing deadlines, began showing up late to mandatory trainings and formations, and his attitude toward his peers and his supervision began to decline. His entire chain of command became frustrated with his daily activities, his daily behavior, and they were ready to give up on him. In a moment of transparency, I recall wanting to give up on him as well. But something told me to pause and ask what had changed, as this behavior was uncharacteristic of this area. After a few intense conversations and deep counseling sessions, he finally began to open up. His wife, unfortunately, had been diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 25. In that moment, everything made sense. The picture was crystal clear. What do I do next? You put yourself in that young airman's shoes, and you ask yourself through some self-reflection, how would your behavior change? What would you do? How would you handle this situation? And once you go through that self-reflection piece, then you need to put actions in place once you realize you've come to the root cause. We begin adjusting his schedules. We set up daily and weekly check-ins and help connect him with military and civilian resources for his wife's care and his family's financial needs. That same chain of command, that same team began rallying behind him, and over time, he worked his way back to being one of our top performers. Empathy doesn't mean you have to lower your standards. It means you should raise your understanding. People don't follow titles, they follow leaders who act, and they follow leaders who care. A popular quote reads, "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care." That young airman went on to be a Command Chief, Master Sergeant, E9 in the United States Air Force. We could have very easily not exercised empathy. I could have very well given up and not decided to do some self-reflection by placing myself in that young airman's shoes to kind of figure out what's going on, and who knows what their result would be. But That is the message, whether it's uncomfortable or not. It is something that leaders are willing to do in those times. Empathy is a foundational trait of great leadership. It's where trust begins, and once earned, it's strengthened through integrity and doing the right thing, even if it may cost you something. Growing up in Baltimore, Maryland, I did not know the formal definition of integrity, but I understood the idea of doing what was right when it wasn't easy. That understanding deepened when I joined the Air Force. Our core values were drilled into us from day one. Integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all you do. Integrity became the foundation of my leadership. It's what gives your words weight and your actions accountability. I remember a time when 2 airmen were building a bomb and one had cut a corner to save time. It wasn't malicious. He just wanted to get the job done. But in our world, the munitions world, one shortcut could cost lives. So we stopped the line, rebuilt the frag, and used that as a lesson learned. Mistakes happen. But integrity means you stop, you own it, and you fix it, even when no one else would even know that it took place. Integrity lays the groundwork for your credibility, but even the strongest foundation needs a connection. That connection is built through communication, the bridge between what we believe and what our team understands. Throughout my career, I learned that communication isn't just about speaking clearly, and that we must meet the textbook definition of needing a sender, a message, and a receiver for it to be effective. It's about creating a space where people feel comfortable enough to communicate in less than ideal circumstances. Early in my Amazon tenure, while learning the rhythm of the operation, I noticed something subtle. People were talking around issues, not saying what they really meant. Problems were sugar-coated and hard truth stayed unspoken because no one wanted to rock the boat. So I started asking some questions, real ones. What's not working? What are we missing? Who's at fault? If you were in my seat, what would you change? Slowly the walls began to come down with the team, and people began to trust that I didn't want the right answer, I wanted the real. That's when you realize communication isn't about perfect words, it's about a genuine connection. It's about listening with intent and making people feel safe enough to tell you the truth when it's uncomfortable. And that truth led me straight to one of the hardest leadership moments across any leadership role. Studies show that courage is one of the hardest traits for leaders to master. Not because they lack the strength, but because courage often demands risk. It means standing up when silence is safer. Another question for the room. When you think about the 7 leadership traits that we're talking about here today, empathy, integrity, communication, courage, confidence, growth, and vision, at such a young age, for most of you in the room, you may not have mastered all of these yet. But if any of you are in a leadership role or seek to be in a leadership role, which one of these do you think would challenge you the most to live out each and every day? Which one of these is the hardest to exercise? Which one of these leadership traits? Faith?
I would say courage. I was the president of my club, and I had to have the courage to tell my team that I didn't take everything, and that I had to take it to other people. But it also took courage to take it off my plate and give it to people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Both of those are correct. Faith mentioned being the leadership of one of her clubs and having the courage to push things down to her team that she cannot take on. That absolutely takes courage. And then to say, do I have enough trust in the people that I'm pushing it to actually take it off my plate and ensure that it still gets done? Who else? Nathan?
traits, I would just say in general. When someone's not knowing when to, especially in the leadership position, knowing when to, let's say, lecture. That's pretty good. Saying no to people is also hard, especially if you're a new person. You can't please everyone. If someone's not doing their job, it's like countless times.
Yep.
It's very hard to tell them that it's not just that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That absolutely takes courage. So that would definitely fall in that courage trait. Absolutely, when you have to, that big A word, accountability, right? So you would expect accountability from top to bottom. And when you're placed in a leadership role, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's going to come a time in your leadership life that tough calls like that have to be made, right? Removing someone from a position, letting someone go, things like that. What about communication? Anyone in the room run into any communication gaps?
Where our current curriculum will come. And so that comes with the communication barriers based on language, based on translations. The industry is a male-dominant industry, and we have a lot of excellent female leaders, but sometimes the communication gap just stands from they're a woman, they can't have that difficult conversation and be able to stand behind them and say, my leader, she's more capable and just do her job.
Right, that's a great point. Thank you. So, sharing and recapping what she shared with us was, two parts there, right? We talked that male and female, not to say that men and women can't communicate, but a lot of times we communicate different, right? And sometimes it's just based off of your upbringing or your background or your understanding of what you should be communicating. But we also talked about, we also mentioned having like culture differences as well. So there's a lot of different times where communication, you can run into lots of different barriers when it comes to communication. How did you work through that? Or how do you work through that?
Being open and transparent. The current position I have, I work with some people, and a lot of times things can fall through the cracks because the position can very well be simple or complex, and so being upfront and honest is always the best way to carry on without
There's no right or wrong answer. Just wanted to hear what the group wanted to share. But based on studies, for a lot of people, it is courage. The reason that a lot of people say courage, because of all the traits that we just mentioned, courage is the one that comes with the most risk. When you have to make that tough call, you risk about perception. How do they view you? How do they see you? We're going to extend the shift. We're going to work an extra day, right? It always comes with risk. Not always, but a lot of times it comes with risk. So a lot of our leaders find that that's the hardest one to master within an organization. Not long after joining the team as a new operations manager, I noticed something was off. On paper, we looked great. Most of our metrics were green, and most of our goals were being met. But the way we met those goals didn't quite sit well with me. I could clearly see that corners were being cut, and some of our short-term fixes could have easily turned into safety risks. I even had a few of my subordinate managers come to me quietly and say, Fulton, some of the things we're doing is going to get someone hurt. However, when they have raised those concerns in the past, they were told to make it work. Let's figure it out. Why? Because we're green. The numbers look good. Let's not rock the boat. Devoid of any courage, I could have stayed silent. I could have followed suit and gone along with the status quo, just like everyone had done in the past. Instead, I decided to bring it forward to my direct manager anyway and speak on what my team was sharing with me. It wasn't easy. As I stated, I was a new operations manager. I hadn't built strong relationships yet with the team, other senior managers, or other members from the other teams. And I absolutely ruffled some feathers. But doing the right thing in a moment like that rarely feels comfortable. In the end, we corrected the processes, built safer standards, and still met and exceeded goals and metrics. But this time we were doing it the right way. That experience taught me something that I still carry. and that I'll carry through every other leadership role, is that courage doesn't just protect your results, it also protects your people. That moment was a turning point for me. I realized that integrity earns trust, but your actions will validate it. You can't ask people to follow you if you don't set a standard and live by it. In the Air Force, precision saved lives. At Amazon, it saves millions. And neither will happen by accident. Competence is not about knowing everything. It's about mastering the basics and doing them right every time. I tell my teams all the time, you become confident by doing the work, owning the results, and learning from every make and every miss. Skill grows from repetition, not your reputation. When I would walk around the site there in Durham, North Carolina, RW5, I wasn't looking for perfection. I was looking for curiosity from the leaders. I was looking for leaders who would ask tough questions, unconventional questions. Leaders who were willing to dig into the data, no matter what they thought the data may show them. And leaders who wanted to understand why things work, not just that they do work. That's how you move from managing outcomes to mastering your craft. Competence builds your confidence, growth will sustain it. The best leaders never stop learning, even when the feedback stings a little bit. I once had a commander, one of my favorite commanders in my time in the U.S. Air Force, say, Sergeant Spriggs, you're good at what you do. As a matter of fact, you're usually great at what you do. But sometimes you're too direct with other leaders. You absolutely get results, but the way you communicate can and will cost you influence. As a competitor, I didn't like hearing it. It stung a little bit. I thought being direct was part of being effective. To a certain degree, you need balance. But my commander was not saying that I was wrong. My commander was simply trying to tell me that I needed to deliver the right message the right way. That feedback initiated a change in my approach. I started asking myself, what outcome do I want from this conversation? What am I trying to achieve from this interaction? I began adjusting my tone, chose my timing carefully, and made space for other people's voices instead of pushing through them. I stayed direct and confident, but created norms where people could focus on my message and not just my delivery. My relationships strengthened, my results began to improve, and here's that word again, trust soon followed. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens when you're willing to be uncomfortable long enough to change. Feedback is never personal, it's information. And when you treat it that way, it becomes your fuel for your transformation. That mindset prepares you for moments that test you more than your skills, and test your vision, the ability to see beyond chaos and lead people through it. When I transitioned from the military into civilian life, I purchased 4 fantastic Sam's franchise hair salons. Imagine going from handling munitions in a male-dominated field to teams leading in a female-dominated trade, specifically during COVID. Talk about a leadership test. I was anxious, my stylists were anxious, our customers were uncertain, and the future was very unclear. I went from leading teams who built things that go boom to leading teams of people, leading teams who make people be beautiful. And trust me when I say both jobs require accuracy. One slip in either role can cause a major explosion. I think the ladies can attest to that when you go and get that, how many ladies here get color in their hair? Ever had any issues with color? Major explosion, right? Yeah, they gotta be just as precise and just as accurate as us putting bombs. So a lot of appreciation for our stylists out there in that tree. But in those early days and months of COVID, as we moved through, the vision mattered more than ever. Every day I reminded our team that our goal wasn't to survive the shutdown. It was to come out stronger, sharper, and more connected to our customers than we ever had been before. We had a long, in the interest of time, I won't go through the entire list of things that we did, but we did create safety plans, we created growth plans, we restructured my team's schedule to protect everyone's income and made sure that no one on the team was left behind. That approach gave people hope. They saw that even in the uncertainty, there was guidance and there was direction. They didn't just see me trying to keep my business open. They saw me fighting to protect the stability and the purpose of why they were there in the first place. That is what vision does. It's not about predicting the future. It's about helping people believe that they have it. Every one of these leadership principles, empathy, communication, integrity, courage, competence, growth, and vision, builds on the others. Together, they form the foundation of leadership that lasts. Across every chapter of my career, the Air Force, semi-pro sports, Amazon, business ownership, I've seen leadership take many different forms. Different uniforms, different industries, different challenges on different continents. But the foundation never changed. Students, when you leave this campus, the world will not hand you a playbook. You will walk into rooms where the answers are unclear, the timelines are razor thin and tight, and people are looking directly at you for direction. That is where your challenge and leadership will begin. Everything you have learned here at ECU, every late night cram for a test, every study session, every group project, every moment that you doubted yourself and pushed through it anyway, is part of the process of becoming a great leader. The attitude of a winner is not forged in times of comfort. It shows up when pressure, doubt, and responsibility all collide at midfield, and the leader in that power determines the outcome. The truth is that leadership does not and will not wait for a title or a corner office. It begins the first time that you choose character over convenience, curiosity over your own ego, and progress over your own pride. That's how you build a career that matters. One decision, one conversation, one challenge at a time. Before I open it up for any questions that you may have for me, I'll leave you with this. You're not just prepared to lead others when you leave here. You're prepared to shape the future of every single room that you walk into. The world does not necessarily need more managers, but they absolutely need more leaders who care deeply, listen intently, and have the courage to act when it matters the most. A lot of people think that they are leaders until a real one walks in the room. You be that leader. Thank you, East Carolina University College of Business faculty, the staff, who made this event possible, to all of you students, for allowing me to share this moment with you. It has been an honor, it has been a privilege, and I wish you all the best of luck in your future roles as leaders. Thank you very much. What was that?
Why did you choose the Air Force
I did pretty good on my ASVAB test, right? So I had some options. I had some options out there. But my dad was Air Force. He didn't retire from the Air Force, but my dad was Air Force, and I had an affection for model airplanes when I was a kid. So I kind of just evolved into that's what I want to do, and probably like a lot of other people who are not familiar with what we do in the Air Force, a lot of people think that everyone in the Air Force flies a plane. Well, I thought that as well. I thought I was going to go in the Air Force and be a pilot, and that didn't come to fruition, but that's kind of how it happened. But it was a great decision.
What was your enlistment going in?
I was a munitions specialist, what we call a 2WO. So bombs, missiles, grenades, and rockets, anything that goes boom, I made it. But I had to transition here, right? Because that's why I wanted to be a terrorist when I retired. There's not a lot of farm making opportunities out here after you retire. So I obviously wanted to, get your education and do some other things with leadership.
What,
Is it MIA, NIA?
yeah.
NIA?
What made you get into the nursing home business? Out of any business that you've done?
That's a really good question. I knew that when I retired from the Air Force that I wanted to go into business ownership. My initial plan was, and the fellas in the room can appreciate this, was to create a place where men could be pampered, right? Razor shaves, beard care, those type of things, right? That's what I wanted. However, going through an MBA program in business, I realized that the book answer was not the practical answer, right? So I didn't feel comfortable, right? I was a little scared about jumping into it without really knowing. So I decided to go into a franchise where I could get that foundation in a similar area to kind of learn what the industry was all about. I did a lot of research, your Fantastic Sams, your Great Clips, your sports clips, all those things, but they have a structure, a franchise structure that could maybe teach me what I needed to know, because I still actually have that goal to do that here in the next 5 years, right? So that's kind of how I chose Fantastic Sams, something similar to what my ultimate goal was, to get some more understanding.
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you for your service. And
Proud to serve.
I think that story you shared of being empathetic to that young airman is incredible to see him go on and achieve greatness is an attribute to you and incredible to you. So
Thank you so much.
amazing story. Can you talk a little bit more? The company that I work for, we're small, but we have a large footprint. Amazon is large, and we have a large footprint. How do you channel accountability? Can you talk a little bit more about keeping people accountable and doing it respectfully, but not just allowing problems to continue?
Yep, absolutely. It's a great question, and it's Jeremy, right? Jeremy asked about about accountability. In any company, large or small, how do you channel that energy to hold people accountable? Is that really kind of it? So in Amazon or in the company that you work for, I don't think the size really matters, right? I think it's about some of the things that we talked about. We talked about all the different traits that the leadership setting talked about, and there are other traits, right? But building a connection. I quoted a phrase when I was speaking that said, "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care." Once you show someone that, it becomes a lot easier to hold someone accountable. Most companies, large or small, have policies in place. So when you couple the two, your ability to follow policy and standards and have that as your backup, right? And then you couple that with the fact that the person that I'm holding accountable, they know that I actually care. It really becomes easy. So building those relationships from the get-go, being clear, communicating, not waiting until you have to hold them accountable, right? Not waiting until something needs to take place with regards to accountability to make sure that those behaviors don't happen. But I think it's about building relationships with the people that you lead up front. It becomes very easy. I've had to hold people accountable for lots of different reasons. Putting people out of the Air Force, firing people from Amazon, firing people from Fantastic Sam. And the truth be told, I've had more positive experiences when holding people accountable than I've had negative, because I've had a deep relationship already built. I've fired someone, and in the exit interview, they said, "Thank you for all of your leadership that you provided for me. I'm disappointed in myself that it came to this, but that's about, I would have never got that response had I not built a relationship up front with those type of individuals." Does that answer it? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for being here to speak with us.
Laura?
Yes. So first, to piggyback off of the amazing story that you shared about Airman, how is his wife?
She did. I do not know now, but she did. He was stationed with us. This was at Moody Air Force Base in Georgia. They were stationed there for another probably 2 to 3, maybe 4 years at the most. This is in the mid-90s. His wife did recover. She did beat it at the time. They went on to move their careers in different directions, move into different bases. But at that time, she did make it through. She did make it
I have a second part to my question. How do you determine when to cut the ties, right? How do you have that difficult conversation and discover what value you add to your team versus knowing when to shut that door and walk away?
Right.
How do you determine
Right.
the two?
And that's a very good question. Laura asked, how do you know really when to cut that tie? When did simply put, when is enough enough, right? That's a hard question to ask, right? Because it's situational. Or it's a hard question to answer because it's situational. But what I would say to that is when the benefits of continuing to invest starts to take away from what you're actually trying to achieve, right? When I'm spending so much time investing in you that this row of leaders who I'm trying to start to suffer, that's my first cue that how much is being invested here, right? Has this person shown me anything that may make me believe he or she can be like that area in this story? But I think it's a matter of the investment and time in that person, from not just your other people, but from the process, right? We talk about managers and leaders, people, we're talking about people here, but I said there's a balance in both. So if this person is also taken away from the metric, the goal, the process, the programs, the things that we talked and we said that managers are responsible for, and you don't see any value in continuing, and you've given her a policy maybe within your company on how many strikes, right, before they're out. Like, what have you done? What have you invested in? And I think when you see that the risk versus reward is no longer there, I think that's a good sign to start saying we might need to start looking in a different direction. Does that answer it?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. My question is very simple. Out of the leadership setting, which one or a couple have helped you personally?
Truthfully, at my age, of the ripe old age of 27, the gray area there, I mean, that's realistic, right? No, because I've been in this for quite a while, all of them. That's the honest truth. At some point in time, I've had to exercise all of them. I've had leaders show all of them to me. The ones that resonate with me the most. I'm not a people person. I'm not a social butterfly, but I do love people, right? I love seeing my manager that's beneath me come up. I love seeing ECU students who are about to go out and do great things, right? But once again, I'm not a social butterfly, but love people. So empathy, being able to put myself in someone's shoes. Not sympathy, but empathy. Putting myself in someone's shoes is something that I always try to do when making a leadership decision that affects that person. Take a moment, and it goes back to stories like that where you learn. Take a moment, take a breath, put yourself in that person's shoes and say, how would this affect me? What would I do in this scenario, right? So empathy. Courage resonates with me. I played semi-pro sports, semi-pro football, semi-pro basketball, and on multiple teams I was some type of captain or leader, right? And having the courage to tell someone, to Jose's point, I think it was Jose that asked that, right? About, who was it that asked about letting someone go? Who asked that? It was Jeremy, right? Accountability, right? That's what I thought. So, having the courage, not just from letting someone go from organization, but telling someone, on the team that they're not pulling their weight, or they're not performing up the par, right? So courage definitely resonates with me. And then as you remember, I stated in the beginning, my foundation for leadership, I will always tie back to my integrity. I put my integrity against anyone's integrity. There are rarely points in my life that I can recall not doing the right thing. Maybe it wasn't always the right outcome, but it was always done with the right intentions, whether someone was watching me or not. That's been something that I've had from that high. So. But all of them.
What's a day-to-day thing that we as college students can do to, I guess, like learn or work on the 7 skills you told us about?
So one more time to begin out. I think you said, what is it that's something that you can do day to day as a college student to work on the 7 skills? Right. So great question. You have to be, the word intentional comes to mind, right? You have to be very intentional about what you do until those traits become second nature to you. A couple of people mentioned being in clubs. There are a lot of people who are on sports teams. There are group projects. You take the lead on a group project. Those type of things are great opportunities for you to figure out a way to exercise those. And I will tell you this, there's nothing wrong with while you're trying to master your craft, while you're trying to develop your style of leadership, taking the book answer and exercising it word for word. This is what the book says integrity means. Even if you are repeating the words straight from a textbook, but until you understand how it manifests within you, there's nothing wrong with saying, for competence, the book definition says this, so this is how I'm going to work toward it. These are the words I'm going to use in my communications. These are the things that I'm going to do day in and day out. And once you feel comfortable, move into the next, but you can't stop, using those. And then before you know it, a lot of these things, along with other traits, just become second nature, just becomes natural. My first inclination, anytime I have an interaction, as you heard in one of my stories, is, Spriggs, you're too direct when dealing with other leaders. That didn't change a lot when I came from, my wife used to have to tell me I need to tone it down. Remember, I came from, a senior enlisted leader in the military where I say, you do this and it gets done, to working with hairstylists and franchise hairstylists. And I walked in the door with the same approach. Like we're on a flight line in Afghanistan and we're about to drop bombs and missiles, right? And she told me I had to tone it down. So now your first inclination, and you work on it, you're intentional about it, and you think about the things you do. And one of the stories I shared talked about, obviously, my approach and the directness, communication. How can I communicate with the space and meet people where they are, right, to get the best outcome. So I think as a college student, you have a lot of opportunities. I would even say, I look at the McDonald's sign. Practice them when you walk into a McDonald's. How do you communicate? If you're up and breathing, there's opportunity to exercise every one of these leadership traits along with others. What was it?
What was the one or a few of the leadership traits that you struggled with?
Communication. Communication was tough, especially early in my career. You heard my story coming out of Baltimore. I had a chip on my shoulder coming out of Baltimore. My first duty station was Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. I had never heard a Southern accent, right? My accent or my dialect has since kind of over the years being all around the world has changed a little bit, but my really prominent Baltimore slang was there, right, when I first got to North Carolina, and everything was a altercation. Living in a homeless shelter, I had a chip on my shoulder, right? I was mad at the world. I was trying to change my surroundings, but every basketball game ended in a fight. Every interaction in the dormitory, whether I was right or wrong, ended in an altercation. So communication, being able to understand that for it to be effective, we're going back to the book definition, sender, message, and receiver. only thing that mattered to me was my part of it. Doesn't matter what you think, right? So communication was probably the hardest one for me early in my career. Integrity has never been an issue. Competence. Competence is another one, right? You saw my path jump from many different things. When I walked out of the Air Force, I knew it all. Couldn't tell me anything. I've been doing this almost 30 years. You want to know how to build a bomb? You want to know how to build something up? I got you. You want to know how to lead people in times of chaos? I got you. But now I'm walking in a fantastic Sam's franchise gas line. You think I was confident? I could barely get my beard right. More or less tell a stylist who's been doing this for the last 10, 15 years what he or she is looking on, right? So competence, every single role you go into, you're going to have to re-achieve that competence, right? If you stay in a similar path, the competence, some of the things will carry over, but every new role and leadership role that you take on, you're going to have to become competent in order to get that effective followership from the people that you're trying to lead. So communication early and then competence as I've switched roles. Sir?
Thank you for coming to share all this with us today. Really insightful. I wanted to ask, throughout your career from military to civilian, you mentioned having a lot of strong leaders. Were there any that you considered a mentor, and how did you find the people that you wanted to make your mentor?
Right. That's a great question. So throughout my career, running into other strong leaders, how did I seek them out? How did I find that mentor that I was looking for and interact with other strong leaders? The word intentional comes again, right? We talk about surrounding yourself with good people. At the end of the speech, you heard me talk about everyone. There's a lot of people who say they are good leaders until a real leader walks in the room. I always looked for that person, right? In the keynote, the young lady said that whether you have a title or not, when that person walks in the room, there seems to be an aura, there seems to be a inclination to like kind of swarm to that person. Those people kind of stand out to me, and it's be curious, start asking questions. There's nothing wrong with asking someone who you believe could provide you mentorship to be your mentor. So go out and intentionally seek those people. And I would say, this is to the last point that I just shared with Jose, look for competent people, right? Whatever it is you're trying to achieve, make sure they're competent in being able to mentor you to reach your goals. So just being intentional, searching out those leaders that kind of stand out and kind of make the room glow.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, once again, ECU, it's been an honor and it's been a privilege. I really thank you for allowing me to share some wisdom with you today. I wish you all nothing but the best of luck in your future endeavors. You can get we don't typically carry business cards in Amazon. Does ECU have a intern program at all? I'm not sure. Does anyone know that ECU has an intern program?
You got a college business administration coordinator? Information for you?
Yes, I would like that. Amazon has started a newer intern program. If anyone is interested, I can get the intern information and then provide my contact information for you all if that is something that you may be interested in. If any of you are out and about in the Raleigh-Durham area, I am a senior process specialist. I don't work at RDU5. I use that building for my RTO. I travel all around the U.S. and Canada now, and whenever I'm not traveling, that's the office that I go to work. But if you're ever out that way, stop in, give you a tour of the Amazon facility, and talk about what opportunities you may see in Amazon. We're looking for great leaders. Thank you very much.